Hey guys, welcome back to another video. What we're going to be talking about today is some tips and some advice that, I've thought of to give you guys as beginner programmers. If you're just starting out or, and you have no idea what coding is and you want to become a software developer, this is just some advice that I would give to myself when I started out. And so I figured it'd be useful to make this video for you guys. It's not just about coding. It's about, your physical health, the desire to learn, expecting failure, getting a mentor, stuff like that is what I'm going to be talking about, and I just hope you guys enjoyed this video. I think there's a lot of really valuable information. If you're new to the channel, what we do here is I give you guys a high-level overview of what it's like to be a software engineer and what you need to do to become one and make the transition, whether you're a high school student just learning how to code and you want to become a software engineer, or whether you're working full-time and you want to make that switch. I think this channel has everything you need to do that, and I genuinely try to give you guys great advice. If you're new to the channel and you like the content, feel free to subscribe, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much. I appreciate each and every single one of you. Let's get right into the video. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is, it's not going to happen overnight. If you're just starting this process, or if you're like a month or two in right now, you know that it can be overwhelming at first. That's definitely the initial reaction I had when I started coding. But what you have to understand is that if you stay committed, as with any skill you want to learn, you have to understand the reality of your situation and make a plan so that you can succeed, right? Whether you're a college student that has zero responsibilities outside of going to lectures, or whether you have a family where you have to drive your kids to soccer practice, you work a full-time job and you only have a couple of hours a day, the most important thing you have to do is understand your reality, understand the situation you're in, and then make a plan to set yourself up for success. Regardless of your situation, it's not going to be overnight. So as long as you set a schedule, you set yourself deadlines. For example, if you want to learn JavaScript, you say, okay, at the end of this month, I want to have 2 side projects built. Simple stuff like that, guys. Set deadlines, make a plan, and understand your reality. You don't have to compare yourself to others. If it takes someone a week to learn something, it takes you a month. Who cares? You're on your own path. And one thing that I didn't do when I was starting off that really set me back a while is make plans, make deadlines, and stick to them, right? I was basically just floating around, not knowing what I wanted to do, not knowing what I wanted to focus on, and just not having control. And basically that just stunted my growth a lot. So I think if you guys, set a plan, only smooth sailing from there. Another thing, especially if this is for people who are, working in a team environment, or you're just an intern and you're really in the early stages of your career, what I want to say is don't be afraid to ask questions, even if you think they're stupid. This especially applies if you're in a team environment, right? If you don't know what's going on and other people are relying on you and you're too afraid to ask a question, not only are you never going to get the solution, but other people are going to be relying on you, and then that'll set them back and kind of creates a domino effect where it all could have been solved if you just, swallowed your pride, asked a question. No one's going to think you're stupid. It's impossible to know everything, and asking a question, it's like perfectly fine. This is something, this was one of the biggest things for me when I just started off as an intern. I was afraid to ask anything. I was afraid of, what they would think of me if I asked, like, how do you make an array in JavaScript, right? The most basic thing, maybe that's a bad example because you can just Google that, but, simple things that you couldn't Google that I would just have to ask. And, it definitely took me a while to get used to it, but you just do it a couple of times and I realized, no one cares. No one judges me. No rational person would really judge you for that. So, don't be afraid to ask questions, guys. Another thing is that you should always try to keep learning. Everything in in tech in general is always changing, right? So if you stop learning new languages and stop kind of learning new concepts, eventually in a couple of years down the road, you might keep your job and you might keep working, but a couple of years down the road, you'll realize that you're kind of stuck in a niche. You've dug yourself into a hole that you can't really get out of because, now you're going to start having to learn, and you won't have built those habits that encourage growth. Right. So I would definitely try to keep learning, and, whenever you get an opportunity to work something new, really embrace it and try to make the best of it. That's what I try to do. So yeah, definitely always try to keep learning, guys. Another thing that I learned kind of the hard way is that you have to expect failure and you have to embrace it, because the nature of software engineering, right? You're working on things that are eventually, something's going to go wrong. Something might break and something might, happen. And to really grow, you have to fail. A very common term, is called failing forwards, where, you fail, you might get a setback, but ultimately you learn from your situation and you better yourself, and then you don't make that mistake again. That's the most important part, right? It's not saying sorry and apologizing if something happens. It's about not making that mistake again. And I learned this hard way. Made a couple mistakes as an intern at some companies, but it really is important to not be afraid of failure, because if you're not afraid to fail, you're not going to be afraid to try new things, and then ultimately you're going to grow as a developer. If you're not taking risks and you're playing it safe and playing it, conservatively, you're really not going to, push yourself to try new things, try, things that might not work, right? So that's and I think that's one of the important things about coding, is that you should always be trying new things and always be, trying to push the envelope and see, maybe this works, maybe this works. So yeah, guys, don't try to avoid failure. You're going to fail eventually at something. Try to expect it, embrace it. And, if you're not afraid of failure, then you're not afraid of anything, right? So embrace it, go full force, and don't be afraid to take risks. Another tip that you guys have probably, watched a ton of videos on is you're not the only one with imposter syndrome, right? What I like to tell everyone, someone that's experiencing imposter syndrome, is that you're 100% good enough. Like myself, as an example, I'm a full-time software engineer, and I think I'm pretty good. And, when I started coding, I was like consumed by imposter syndrome. I thought I was definitely not good enough, not smart enough, whatever. And what's something that helped me is knowing that, there's so many people right now that are trying to learn to code as well, that are in the same position. And that just, I don't know, for me, that like there's some kind of comfort in knowing that other people are struggling through this as well, and other people are succeeding as well. It kind of gives me, a boost. At least that's what worked for me. So that's kind of the mindset that I was in, and that kind of mindset really helped me get over imposter syndrome, stop like comparing myself to others. At some point in your career, you're going to think that you're not good enough, and you're going to think you're not smart enough, but the earlier you can overcome that and, not be consumed by the imposter syndrome, the better. Like, just get that out of the way and realize that you're good enough, you're smart enough, as long as you give it your best effort. Now, this is one of my favorite tips, guys. It's one that has had a great impact on my life and has greatly, accelerated my growth. And I think I'm going to make a video about this, just talking about this one thing in the future, and that is get yourself a mentor. So someone more experienced. What I like to say, the perfect mentor is someone who is at the point in their life where you want to be in 10 years, right? So say in 10 years, you want to own a company and own an app, whatever, be the CEO of a company that runs a successful app, right? The best kind of mentor you can get is someone that is in that position right now. So, obviously that's like a very difficult thing to achieve, like that kind of scenario, but it doesn't have to be that extravagant. It could just be like a senior engineer, on your team, or a professor or something along those lines, someone that you have a genuine connection with, and someone that can help you grow, right? Help you build these key habits that'll make you succeed, and someone that can give you constructive criticism on where you're coming short, where you're failing, so that you know where to improve. And one of the best things I also like to say about mentors is that, you can learn from their mistakes. They've made mistakes in their careers that, have cost them, and you can learn from them without making those mistakes yourself. That's literally like the biggest hack of all time in life. And not only their failures, but their successes as well. For some reason, I focus on the failures, like, oh, how can I, like, what's the worst, like, how can I avoid making those myself? But definitely their successes, their whole life experience, right? Like, they have so much to offer from their perspective. And if you can develop a genuine, good relationship with a mentor, I think that's so, so, so good for your career. And then in the future, it'll make you that much more likely to mentor someone else. That is one of my goals. I would love to be someone's mentor. Yeah, I think it's an important, cycle. It's an important cycle to keep going. You don't want to someone to mentor you and then you don't mentor someone else, right? You want to keep the knowledge flow. Another tip I have for you guys is like the language. If you're starting to learn how to code, you don't know what language to choose. It really doesn't matter, guys. Just pick a language and start coding. If you don't know, pick JavaScript. That's it. Don't dwell too long on picking a language. It doesn't really matter. Learn the foundations, if statements, arrays, for loops, stuff like that. And then over time, there's a lot of things that carry over to different languages that you can learn. So it really doesn't matter that much which language you start with. The important thing is to start, get comfortable with coding, start coding, and stop wasting time. Another huge tip for you guys is to build simple projects, right? If you're starting off how to code and you're trying to build Facebook, you're going to give up and it's going to be way too overwhelming for you. As opposed to that, you can build a number of small projects that are very simple, like a to-do app where you just add, things to a list. Like that's it. Very, very, very simple. That'll take you way less time and that'll build your confidence. It'll make you, apply the things that you've learned through your coding journey, right? Through tutorials, through documentation, through videos, whatever. You apply those things that you've learned, you build an app, and then then eventually you have a couple of little side projects and you can start kind of getting the ball rolling, building more complex things, and really, really, pushing yourself. And to end off this video, guys, if you're just starting out, something not a lot of people talk about, but it's something is so important, is guys, if you're at the computer all day, you know, make sure to stand up, make sure to walk around every hour, every X amount of time, you know, make sure your posture is good and you're drinking a lot of water. I mean, myself, so many times I've caught myself, you know, I haven't drank in hours, I haven't eaten anything, or, you know, I've just been looking at a screen and I have a headache. You know, it's okay to take breaks. It's okay to, you know, be physically healthy while being a software engineer, because I see way too many times people are just like hunched over and you know, like typing like in a dungeon, right? It doesn't have to be like that. Okay, so take care of yourself, and you know, understand that, you know, you need to take care of your body while you're doing this, because if you're working full time, 8 hours a day, you're literally sitting on a chair, right? It's kind of sketchy. So make sure you keep that in mind, especially because you're gonna be doing this for years, right? If you become a software engineer, you're gonna be doing this for a very long time. So might as well get that out of the way right now. So guys, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I really tried to, you know, give you guys some advice, some tips that I've learned from my experience. I might make another video like this in the future. I actually kind of enjoyed it a lot. If you like the content, feel free to like and subscribe. Leave a comment below if there's anything you want to add or anything you disagree with. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. Enjoy the rest of your day and take it easy.